Welcome back to Hampshire. I'm having to film this in a hurry. I did not realize that this was one of the months with 28 days in it, and I usually film the intro last. By the way, holy ever-loving McFuck, what in the fresh hell? Russia has invaded Ukraine. Uh, it's the end of the world, maybe. There's an old curse that says, may you live in interesting times. The idea being that stability and peace are boring, and therefore desirable. Well, we are about to live through some real fucking interesting times. Now, I'm not here to get political. I don't really want to talk about that. I'm just a humble underwater hamster farmer tending to my water hamsters. Now, if you happen to live in Russia, I don't know if I have any Russian fans or Ukrainian fans. This is going to be a chaotic time for you too. My heart really goes out to you. I don't know what to say. I don't really go into any given month expecting anything specific to happen, but the invasion of a major country by another major country was not on the top of my list, let me tell you. No e-begging this month. You know where my Patreon is. You can like and subscribe if you want, but I really want to talk about writing. As many of you already know, I've been trying to make it as an author, apart from all this weird internet shit that I do. I recently successfully kickstarted my first trad pubbed anthology. It's a physical book with a dust jacket and everything that you can hold in your hands, and it's got all sorts of cool backer benefits. That's over. That was months ago. Everybody who ordered their book through the Kickstarter is going to get, or Indiegogo rather, is going to get theirs pretty soon. If they haven't already, there are some that I'm going to have to sign. Those are going to get shipped to me first. That's not what I want to talk about. I also write short stories, which I publish on Substack, which you can access, many of them for free. The ones without a lock icon are free to read in their entirety. The ones with a lock icon, you get to read about half of it before you hit a paywall. I recently finished one that I'm really proud of. It's called The Manifestation Cabinet. It's I like to sell the concept as Indian in the Cupboard meets steampunk Ghostbusters. Basically, there was a period in the late 1800s where there was a spiritualism craze that swept Europe and the United States. And this coincided with electricity being a new and interesting thing that people didn't really understand, in the way that quantum mechanics is not really understood today. And both of them got used then and now for hiding the supernatural. Today's woo-woo mystics say that the supernatural is bound up with quantum mechanics because it's new enough nobody can really definitively say they're wrong. That used to be the case with electricity, so there are all kinds of electrical devices which purported to be able to raise your chakras or reinvent, like there was electric vitality belts for improving male performance, and also a variety of devices that purported to contact the dead. There was a spirit phone, which was invented by none other than Thomas Edison, who believed souls were something called memory swarms. There were electrical spirit cameras that purported to be able to photograph the dead. This story is about the Manifestation Cabinet, which is a device which was purported to manifest spirits and make them physical within the confines of the box, and which in fact was just a hidden place for the performers to do their thing unobserved. In this story, it's real though. A lot of my stories take something that's nonsense in real life and then explores it as if it were real in a very exhaustive way, looking at all the implications of what if that were actually true, who would use it in what ways, and that's, I think, the essence of magical realism. What makes this story special is I did a lot of homework on the 1890s, which is the period during which the story takes place. Everything is period appropriate, or almost. I had to stretch the time a little bit to include things like New York's pneumatic underground mail delivery system, and automats, which I thought would be a neat detail, but aren't quite in the right time period. Everything else is more or less accurate. They didn't have really photography in the way that we understand it back then. They had CDV, which was car division cameras, which took cabinet card photographs. Before that was daguerreotype and calotype cameras. The cars were not gas-powered yet. I think there were some early electric prototypes, but all the cars on the road were owned by wealthy people and were either steam-powered or, in rare cases, compressed air-powered, which I chose for the story just to showcase it as a fun, impractical, sort of the pipe dream and novelty. I like to include oddball technologies that are forgotten to time in my writing, so people learn a lot, a little interesting real world details. Sometimes they assume that it's specific to my writing, so they're really surprised when they see it on Wikipedia or something, because it's like taking something they thought was fictitious, just making it real, like raising your kid to believe the giraffes are a mythical animal like dragons, and then taking them to the zoo one day and blowing their mind. But it's got a lot of that stuff in it. It's a fun old timey setting that also is shared by the stories Not Long Now and the Resurrection Men, which is a story about Frankenstein's process of resurrecting the dead, but commercialized into a business, returning the deceased loved ones of very wealthy patrons from the dead. That's another story from the day, though. They overlap. All my stories overlap and are interreferential. I'm trying to create sort of a shared universe, and maybe one day that'll help me pitch it as a film franchise or pitch to Netflix or something. In the meantime, go over to my Substack. There's a link in the description. That's where you'll find the link to my writing, both free and paid, and everything else that I do. And enjoy the free portion of it. That's got a lot of the really interesting, juicy world building before you actually have to pay to continue. I do need to eat eventually, and Patreon is getting pretty lean. And I've got 2 cats to feed now and 2 hamsters, and they eat a lot. They poop a lot too. I need to potty train that kitten at some point. That's a whole other problem. But have a look at it. It's good stuff. I know everybody says their writing is good. Everybody thinks they can be an author. I'm often a little bit insulted when people come back and say, "Wow, it actually was good." I'm like, "Yeah, I said it was," but I understand it. I understand the skepticism, and this is actually good stuff. If you give it a shot, I think it's safe to say that you'll come back for more. It'll captivate your it's got the same attention to detail and knowledge of really obscure niche interests like underwater bases and whatnot that I think attracts people in Hampshire. So there's some overlapping appeal here. Give it a chance, and if you don't like this, which suit yourself. There's a bunch of other stuff on the site. I don't only write horror. I mostly write horror. It's almost entirely horror. I also write science fiction, and there's a little bit of comedy. There's a little bit of everything. Vanna Black. This is the one where there's a patient inside a hyperbaric chamber wakes up to discover the atmosphere has disappeared and everything outside is a vacuum. So everybody's dead, but their corpses are preserved forever, and the sky is black, but everything is still brightly lit. That's a fun one. A lot of speculation about who would survive, like people aboard nuclear submarines, people aboard airliners because they have unpressurized air supply, people in the ISS and whatnot. Up the Beanstalk, a world where everybody lives in industrialized towers and everyone's a cannibal and each of the towers is a self-contained mechanical ecosystem that raises humans for meat. Whittier, Alaska. If you don't know about Whittier, that's a whole other rabbit hole. Once I found out about it, I had to write a story set there. It also intersects with the elevator game, which if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. But it requires a building with 10 floors to do it. And Big Tower, where everybody in a Whittier lives and is a town under one roof, has more than 10 floors. So I figured these two concepts intersect and would make a good story. Lots of good stuff on here. There's something for everyone. Give it a shot. All right, I attached a ballast pod off camera just to see if it would work at all, or if I was going to have to delay the video this month. Here's the issue. It's hard to explain. The ballast pods have this raised logo that makes everything more complicated than it needs to be. It doesn't really serve any purpose except to stick up by like a couple millimeters, so it's not perfectly flat. That makes my life difficult because one of the screws goes through and it's flush with the bottom of the container. The other three need some kind of spacer in between. And I was going to use regular thin washers for that because they're about the right depth, but I ordered them from Amazon and they just didn't arrive. A lot of stuff from Amazon has just not been arriving lately. I don't know what's going on. I still have these stainless steel rubber lined washers though. They're not quite the right thickness, but they're close. They're thicker than I should say they're thinner than they appear because they're sort of conical. It's hard to describe again. There's not words for oftentimes things I want to say. They get crushed flat though as you tighten the screw. So they get thinner, and also having some of these here will increase the watertightness of the habitat once I'm finished. I'm not sure if this material will contribute at all. Probably not. I'm just going to use a generous slathering, that's a fun word, sounds a little bit lewd, of silicone sealant instead, or in addition. That should make the habitat more watertight than before, except for this point. If anything is going to leak, it's going to be that, which is why I'm going to really be generous with the sealant. And hopefully that will do the job. These points get thicker with two C's. They get wider in diameter. I'm really glad I thought about that when I was cutting the insulating spacer between the heat pad and the floor, because it fits just perfectly. It looks like that won't be an issue and I won't have to redo that part. I can't really get a good camera angle on that unless I do this. This is in the way, but the bolt, right, it works. It lines up perfectly. Everything happened to come together. I thought I knew everything about building these fucking things after about the second round of habitat modules. There's still more to learn. Even after all this time, there's still small ways to improve it and make it more long-lasting and more durable and idiot-proof. So I'm having done this one and having it work, I'm going to proceed to do the second one, and then I'm going to take it all apart again once I've crushed these washers, because they're really inconvenient to work with until you've worn out the inner portion of the seal. And I'm going to add silicone sealant around the penetration points on the hull, and also just anywhere I can between the ballast pod and the hull, because I'm not fucking around this time. I mean, it wasn't before, but unbelievably, there was still shit that could go wrong. And then I'm going to do the same to the bolts that connect the gate valve, that's the word I want, to the hull. And hopefully that will create a watertight seal for the ballast pods and the gate valve to the habitat shell. Okay, here it is, all bolted together, nice and tight. Everything sits well. The seal is nice and pushed up against the edges of the hole. These mostly align. They're a little bit crooked, but nobody's going to notice. I'll know, and that's going to bother me. I really wish I had just gotten those fucking washers I ordered, but I can't reorder them now because I'm broke until the day after tomorrow, I guess. Now I am going to seal it together. This is going to be a short video probably. I'm going to do shorter format videos going forward because a lot of my videos are just me doing the nitty-gritty assembly, and you've already seen that. You know what it looks like to fucking tighten a bolt. And I've already shown the steps that you wouldn't normally see in the assembly of any other DIY project, like the hole cutting and the all the stuff specific to Hampture. I know I can't put ads on a video shorter than like 10 minutes, but I don't really make any money off these anyway, and I'd rather you get videos that you actually have time to watch. I think a lot of people see longer videos and they nope the fuck out of them because they're busy, they have things to do, and I don't think it really helps me. Again, it would help me with the total amount of time viewed, and which contributes towards the payout, but I don't make anything from YouTube, so again, that's not a factor for me. I'm just thinking about what you guys would like to watch, and I don't want to waste your time watching me turn a wrench or a screwdriver, so I'm just going to skip those in the future and focus on the parts specific to this project. No, not now. God, for God's sake. Whenever I'm doing something that takes my attention away from them. You know what the worst thing is when they mess with the tripod. They don't know that I'm filming. They just know that I immediately turn my attention to them when they fuck with the tripod. It wouldn't work if I didn't keep doing it, but I'm trying to film here. This is one of the things I talked about that's specific to this project, so I am filming it. I don't need to put it on the seal itself. The seal does the job of sealing perfectly adequately. I just need to... I'm tempted to waste a lot of it on every part of the gate valve that touches the habitat shell, but I don't think I need to. I think this much will be just fine. Probably excessive. And other than that, everything is already in place for sealing this on here. Let me get a better angle. Hang on. There's no hurry for getting it on here. This sealant takes 12 hours to dry. There we go. It's not perfectly straight. The holes are not completely lined, so I have a little bit of trouble with this one bolt. I have to screw it into place, even though there isn't a reason I should have to do that. These aren't made in a factory yet, probably ever. So there are little details that are not quite perfect. It should not affect what. Oh, the seal. Oh, the. I gotta get a shot of that. Look at how perfectly it went on here. Look at that. That's just exactly right. Chef's kiss. Pacha mean. Gordon Ramsay. Finally, some good fucking sealant. It's exactly what you want to happen. And none of it got in because the seal blocked it out, which is what it's supposed to do. Neato. I'll remember that for the future. I'm still adding to my best practices document, which is also my parts list. I had one. I don't know what happened to it before, but I forgot how to make these. Sort of like how NASA forgot how to make the Saturn V because it went decades without making one. And I ordered the wrong nuts, which delayed things greatly because I'm having trouble getting mail for some reason. The thread count needs to be right. Like the number of threads, the fucking diameter needs to be right. These bolts need to be the right length to account for the addition of any washers that you're going to use, and also not be too long if they're the ones I'm using on the ballast pods, that they prevent you from putting the ballast weights in there and closing it adequately. It's, for a silly hobby, it's maddeningly complicated. I chose well. I like frustrating things, which is why I play a lot of Rimworld lately. That game will suck your life away. Not in the good, fun way. You know what I mean. It's unfortunately not one of the few games that lets me build a base underwater. Otherwise, I'd like it even... Oh, I need to loosen this one. This plastic piece doesn't want to sit quite like that. It doesn't want to be absolutely tight. This sort of balances the load between these four. You know, I said I wouldn't film this. I said I wouldn't... I'll cut to the completion. There it is. Oh, I might want to take those out actually, and put sealant on the... You know, I probably don't need to. That has never been the part that leaked for me, which makes me wonder if I even need silicone sealant on these, because I have waterproof washers on both sides. I should probably test this. I wonder if I can just stick this into the tub or something and see if water enters at 1 atmosphere, because if it doesn't enter at 1 atmosphere, it's not going to enter at positive pressure. Actually, you know what? It won't hurt. Can't hurt to have sealant on there. This part I am going to film. I'm thinking, do I put the sealant just around the holes? Probably in the holes too. That can't hurt. Or just go fucking crazy with it. I have a couple tubes. It's not expensive. Probably better to use too much than too little. Well, the nice thing about this stuff is it's not permanent like the super glue was. If I don't use enough, I can come back and add more later. I don't think there's any real point to adding it anywhere that's not the hole penetrations, though. Yeah, that was a major lesson of the first one, is the first one was super glued, and it was very watertight. It lasted for a decade. But when it started leaking, there was no way to fix it, because I couldn't take things apart. I don't know if the latest version is an argument for repairability or not, since I had to replace it so quickly, but that was on me. There were design problems in that I probably should have foreseen. So what I'm going to do is take these washers off, and I'm going to put some sealant in here too. This feels like Bob Ross, like I'm describing a painting. It's just a demented alternate universe cable TV Bob Ross. Put some on there. Put some on this side. There's really no reason not to. I'm almost tempted to go all around the hole. I don't want to have to do this again, basically. At least this time if it leaks, I'll know for sure it's not the penetration points. I did this with the last one. I don't think I was this thorough, though. I didn't use rubber-lined washers on the bottom, too, for example. If this leaks, then I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Which was always a possibility. I mean, you do this long enough, you think you know everything that can happen. I don't want to get any... And also, if you get super glue anywhere on the acrylic that you don't mean for it to go, and you don't get it off, you can't really get it off, because it just smears. It just creates a permanent smear. That's not true with this stuff. This stuff, you can peel it off like hot glue. I really should have thought about that sooner. I almost want to use fresh washers just to get a tighter... It should be fine. Again, I have the freedom of being able to do this over later if I need to. And I can say that with confidence, even though I'm entrusting an animal's life to this, because these things fail safe. Everyone asks why I don't connect these to the surface. That's because it would have to be 1 atmosphere to do that. If it connects to the surface, it can equalize air pressure with the surface, and it needs to be strong enough then to stay watertight, even though there's a pressure differential at depth between the inside and the outside. I don't do that because there's a lot of there's a sort of... It's sort of idiot proof. You can't really accidentally kill an animal with one of these unless you really don't know what you're doing, because the water is kept out by the air. The air pressure does 90% of the work in keeping the water out. I'm gonna get some of this crap on my fingers no matter what I do now. There we go. Should probably have a towel for this. I do. Oh, it's got some on from last time too. I should probably clean more often. That will get it on the threads of the screw, which is one possible way water could sneak by. I think the issue is that the air bubbles exit at a higher point on the hole than I would like, because the seal is the weak point. So if there's a lower point, that even though the pressure differential is very slight, it's still there. It's still enough to push water in very, very slowly. A very annoying slow leak. There we go. I'm gonna have little hairs glued to my fingers for a week. That's alright. It's a feature, not a bug. Because I pet my cats too much. Oh, Gremlin is such a little sweetie. She's the cat I thought All Ball was going to be. All Ball is still cool. She's funny and she's a badass, and I liked having her around, but she's not the cuddle bug that I wanted her to be. Gremlin is. Gremlin will not leave me alone. And I usually like it. She just wants to be held, and she cries. She just little soft mews. Mew, mew, mew. All Ball doesn't really mew. She goes like meow. She sounds like a buff dude, like a buff bearded dude. If they were a cat, don't draw that. It's too late. What have I done? She's just a badass. Cats are really different, and you don't ever control a cat. Cats will just think you're a stupid asshole if you ever. I spray them, and they'll obey me in the moment, but all that it teaches them is I need to wait until he's not looking. Which is why I need to buy some of those automatic sensor-controlled water sprayers, so that they start to get superstition and they believe there's an unseen, like I can be invisible and always watching. Come on, go on there. There we go. This is such a bitch, but it's worth it to be absolutely sure. Oh, Hamburger Cam is back online. It turns itself off every so often. I don't know why it's doing that. I think my computer's auto-updating or something. He's fine in there. Dick is really old by now. I wonder if living underground has contributed at all to that. I wonder if there's a relationship. I know there's a study that says hamsters live longer in red light because it's red shifted, and it's better for their eyeballs and less stressful. I don't know if living in mostly underground contributes at all. I don't know why it would. But I got him I think 2 years ago. He should. I don't want to jinx it. He should be dead by now. He's a very, very, very decrepit elderly hamster, but he's still chugging along, still living beneath the earth. He's going to be the only survivor. Just watch. When Russia launches their nukes, the ones who emerge from their bunkers to repopulate the earth will be hamster kind, not man, and they'll do a better job probably. They won't reinvent shopping malls or suburbs. We'll lose a lot. We'll lose a lot of important culture, though, that they probably won't reinvent. Like Gushers fruit snacks, the apex of 1990s fruit snack technology. That also sound really uncomfortably lewd. Okay, remember when the internet voted to make Gushin Grannies a Mountain Dew flavor? The internet was a mistake. The internet and anime. Two of mankind's biggest mistakes. I don't need to seal the insides of the ballast containers because I don't really care if water gets in here. I don't want lead to be touching the water because that's a neurotoxin. It's bad for the fish. If I ever put these in a river or a pond, it will be bad for the wildlife. But they're in a sealed plastic container. There's enough of a barrier to exchange that without anything actively pushing water in and through here, that's not likely to be a problem. Uh-oh, is that supposed to be like that? Oh yeah, that's because that's the one in the corner. That one seems to be sticking through a little bit more. That's weird. Is that because these ones aren't tight enough? I don't know. I don't want to flatten the washers too hard. I've heard that can damage them. There we go. That one won't turn anymore. This one's not nearly enough. I don't want to also do it too hard because that's what cracked the last one. And sure enough, there's like little tracers of goo, of silicone sealant. These are going to be stressed anyway by buoyancy, so probably eventually they're going to crack no matter what I do, but hopefully we'll get a couple good years out of them. Maybe even a decade like last time, who knows. I also think balancing the surface using the washers was a good idea to prevent undue stress from causing fractures prematurely. Now let's do the second one. I'm not going to film this one because I already filmed doing the first one. It's just going to be the same thing twice. Now I'm going to glue the, I should say, it's not really glue, it's sealant. I'm going to seal the insulating board down to the floor of the habitat and the heater pad on top of it. I'm pretty confident I won't have to redo this, so, and again I can just peel it out if I need to. Which way does it go? Oh yeah, this way, I think. Actually, no, I think that might be upside down. Well, that just pre-applies the glue on the other side for me. How handy is that? Oh, this one was adhesive. I didn't even need to apply to that side. Well, it's not very good adhesive, so probably better that I do anyway. There we go. That's just right. I'm glad I checked. That should keep that in there. I hope I don't need to remove this for any reason, but again, if I do, it's going to be a headache. but it won't be impossible. That's the important thing. And while I'm at it, I may as well seal the... I forgot to do this last time, but... Now I can get it under there while it hasn't cured yet. There we go. That should take care of the hole penetration, at least for the power cable. Next I need to do this guy. I don't know how to do this though, because I might need to super glue this one. The hole is a little big, so it doesn't stay. It doesn't really... It's a little loose. I don't have the benefit of being able to wedge it in there. I'm going to try the sealant. If it doesn't work, I'm going to scrape it off and super glue it. This is something I shouldn't have to replace anyway, under any normal circumstances. And again, those are famous last words. That ought to do it. If that doesn't work, it's the super glue. I'll be the first to know. That's everything in place. After this, I can cut the floorboard out of Coroplast and start to finish it out. And pretty soon I'll be able to put this in the water to test it for seaworthiness, as it were. Aquarium worthiness? I'm not sure. I guess I can make it up as I go along. There's not exactly more than one authority on underwater hamsterology in the world. It's not something you put on your resume. It's also something generally you don't tell women until the third or fourth date. There we go. In 12 hours, that should be ready to test. This is Coroplast. I assume you know what it is, but I often assume wrongly that everybody else knows what I'm talking about. Because, you know, no theory of mind, I tend to do that. It's corrugated plastic. It's basically just plastic cardboard. It's great for DIY stuff. You can fabricate a lot of stuff out of it that you couldn't do with cardboard because it's not waterproof and will get moldy. That won't happen with Coroplast. It's not really great for the environment. Neither is 3D printing, but you got to do what you got to do. Paul Elkins DIY, Paul space Elkins, does amazing stuff. He's like the MacGyver of Coroplast. He has made a number of innovative lightweight vehicles and shelters out of this. And when I say vehicles, I mean he's made like a roadworthy gas-powered reverse trike where all the body panels are Coroplast. He's also made a pedal car. He made a bunch of towable bike campers. This is great stuff. It's got built-in air pockets for insulation, and you can put Mylar on it really easily. It's really useful for a bunch of different things. I'm not going to cut this into the floorboard on camera because you saw me do that last time for the insulator board for the heater pad. Again, I'm trying to waste less time on these newer videos. But I do that so I can clean it, so I don't have to take the whole habitat out of the water to clean the filth. It gets pretty filthy. I just take the board out, hand wash it in the sink, and then I can let it dry and stick it back in. It's just another one of those little quality of life improvements I've devised over the years for the little Hambros. Oh yeah, just for fun, here's my Rimworld colony. You can watch me continue to work on it on my Twitch channel, which is in the link in the description. It's got everything. It's one link that goes to a link tree, so it's got a list of links to everything that I do, basically. I like Rimworld for the same reason I like Hampture. It's all about devising habitat space to meet the complex needs of living organisms and taking into account their comfort and their mood and ergonomics and all the little things that go into designing living spaces. As you can see, I used to have solar panels and wind. I got rid of that completely once I got geothermal. This map has 6 geysers, so I'm 100% geothermal now, which seems like a bad choice because, of course, raiders always attack the power lines, but it's not a big problem because I also have a shitload of batteries. What do I say about batteries? What do I fucking say? I always say have as much battery as you can get your hands on. It's a magic box that stores lightning. There's so much in here that I can just wait them out. It's like a siege tactics, and once they go away, I have so much stored energy I can just continue to enjoy electricity throughout that whole process, and then go fix the power lines, which are otherwise in pretty good shape most of the time because I roof them over. That's why they're shadows. That's to keep rain off of them. There's a couple causes of degradation in relatively recent updates that cause power lines to short out and explode. One of them is being rained on, the other is being walked on, which is why if I go to the power tab, you will see I don't have any power tabs going through or power cables going through the doors because those will be walked on frequently. Everything is marble because that's fireproof. I used to think steel was fireproof. How foolish I was. In this game, it's not. It's only 20% flammable, but marble is 100% flame proof. And it's what this mountain is made out of, which I could have just burrowed into had I been thinking in Dwarf Fortress mode. But instead, I use it for bulk mining and will eventually make a sort of safe room shelter in here for when things go catastrophically wrong, which they have before. This is a game where a bunch of iguanas can fuck you up, so you really have to plan for absolutely every contingency. And this also rewards my paranoid tendencies and tendency to kind of do light prepping. 100% recommendation for me, except that it will take up all your time and it's incredibly addictive. It's like a computer meth. I would still recommend it, and if you want to see what I do, which is basically forcing everybody in all the settlements around me to be cyborgs by surgery, you can tune into the Twitch and watch that happen. The whole world must learn of our peaceful ways by force.